Hello and welcome into another Red Out podcast. My name is Colonel Stewart here, and just coming at you. Got some football talk, got some Western talk, We're playing some team this week. I think it's State Ohio State. I don't know. I think they're in Columbus. It's somewhere. Stick with us. We'll get right into it, guys.
Hey, how about them tops, son?
All day, SEC boys. SEC, they supposed to be SEC. Where's your day, baby?
You're listening to the Red Out Podcast.
I am not ashamed to admit in the past, I've needed a therapist. We all need someone, and it's a strong person who can admit it. I talked to my doctor, who referred me to a therapist, and I really didn't have much say as to who the therapist was. But with this episode's sponsor, Betterhelp, you do. You can filter out who you would like to talk to, age, gender, religion, and more to pair you with the person who works best for you. And if the person isn't exactly who you were wanting, you're not stuck. You can switch counselors. BetterHelp strives to offer affordable, professional, and accessible online therapy. So go to betterhelp.com/redout today to save 10%. By doing this, you not only support us, you can work toward a brighter, healthier you. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. We were or are supposed to have a guest tonight, but he was unable to make it. But we're hoping he may be able to make it towards the end of the episode. So for those of you listening live, that's why the title has Buckeye Mike on there. But sorry, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so back to the action. We'll jump into this real quick with Western Golf. I mean, Western Golf, like we were talking the other day about, I got to look up the name. What was the name of that golf tournament they were in? It was in Cincinnati, I know. Let me see. I'll pull up the name real quick while my internet's quick.
University of Cincinnati Invitational. That makes sense, actually.
The Jennifer Duke Invitational.
Oh.
Yeah, I knew it had a person's name. I didn't remember what it was. But the Lady Tops actually ended up winning the Jennifer Duke Invitational victory or tournament. Golf scramble. I don't know. What do you call those? Invitational? Is that just what it is?
Yeah,
but anyway, Western ended up dominating it, basically. Katie Craig, our own personal female version of Tiger Woods, got the. She was 4 under 66 in the final round. So she shot a 66, I guess is what that means, and she was 4 under,
and par was 70.
Yes. And then we've got. Sorry, just bumping up my volume here. Lady Top.
I can just see the Twitter handles at Sarah Dabera got second, and Addie Westbrook. I'm pretty sure that's probably her name. Addie Westbrook was 4th.
Yes, that was. The only person I got was the Katie Craig. There was a girl. Let me see. Apparently, Arnold's got second place finish, best of her career, and then of course Coach Gary, the Lady Toppers, I guess, and probably men's too, golf coach, is won 10 championships in 9 seasons.
Yeah.
So look out, Coach Hudson.
Nice.
We're saying he's the winningest coach in golf program history. So, and also,
I really, honestly, you gotta like where the golf programs are going.
I mean, right? Like, I mean, yeah, awesome, completely great job. And then we've got Katie Craig. She was named Conference USA Co-Golfer of the Week. So, congratulations to her. Let's see.
Yeah, we're showing golf some love.
Well, I do try to spread it around. You know, we are your one-stop golf news station. So, that's all I've got for golf. Do you have anything else? I mean, like the Lady Tops in general, the girls dominated, but the Katie Craig was basically she ended up having her single victory and then the team victory. So it was awesome job by the golf team. But for golf, for volleyball, we had Western beating Austin P in a very close 3-0 match. So good job, Western.
Yeah. Nail biter there.
Yeah, Kaylee Bauer and Kaylee Cox picked up double doubles on the night. Kaylee Cox had 12 kills off 23 swings for a 5.22 hitting clip. Yeah, I got that from the article. I have no idea what that means.
Well, 520. I mean, it's like hitting that in baseball. I mean,
I didn't even. I mean, this is how much I knew
that's
about.
Good, right? I mean,
well, this is how much I knew about volleyball. When I saw them saying like she has a 5.22 average, I was like, she's got a 5.22 hitting average. Like that's baseball talk, right? I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, if you look at a 300 in volleyball, it's similar to 300-ish in baseball. I mean, it's not exactly, but yeah, if she hit 5.22, that means more than 1 out of every 2 times she went to hit the ball, she'd hit it on the ground.
Clobbered it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabby Wee, I think I typed that right. She stuffed 4 blocks from the middle. So she was dominating up the middle, and Kaylee Cox was just killing it at least half the time. So over half the time at 5.22. I mean, that's a great job. I couldn't do it. I'm not even going to lie. I'm too short. But I'm taller than Jared. So
could you get net on a volleyball net?
How tall is a volleyball net?
It's like, I think it may be 8.5 feet.
Oh,
so it's pretty short. You should be able to touch your face on it if you're not like 5'2".
I mean, I'm not that tall, dude. Or I'm not that short. I'm sorry. How tall?
You're not 5'2". Wow, Devin. I think
I'm shorter than Jared. I'm like one of the Snow White 7 dwarves. I've got the beard and that's it. Let me see.
Jared, any thoughts on this?
I think I've actually just started. Like, my daughter will ask my wife something, and she will not be around, so I'll just answer, and I'll do this voice and just keep talking. So I think I'm going to do that with Jared from now on. We'll be like, "Hey, Jared, what do you think about that?" I think you're right.
Perfect.
Hell no. I mean, sorry, I was trying to say how tall. I mean, how tall is it? There we go. That's what I want. How tall is a college volleyball net? 7 feet and 11 and 5/8 inches.
Yeah, it's like 8. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. 8.5 feet.
So that's like the top.
Yeah,
dude, I couldn't hit that with a trampoline. I know I could get the bottom, but not the top.
You couldn't get to 8 feet.
No, I can't jump 8 feet.
I mean, it's not like I can stand and touch the top of that net.
Yeah, but how tall are you?
6'3".
See, you're 6'3". I'm 5'10". I'm 5'10".
So you're 5 inches shorter. You can't get up a foot off the ground.
I mean, 5 inches is a lot, like, right, ladies? But anyway, no, I might could tip the net, but I am not jumping over that. I can tell you that right now.
I hear you.
Okay, so I'm sure everybody's thrilled to hear our volleyball net how high could Devin jump talk, but
that's fascinating. Can we keep going on this?
No, we've got football to get into. So
I guess
we have just sped right along tonight. I think we're going to get done in like 30 minutes tonight, but because I was all primed and ready to talk with our guest, and he's not going to make it.
So you probably have you looked at anything today, or you just
yes, I did.
I
did. I legitimately did. I had a little homework sesh earlier because I was off today.
Okay.
So
I see you, Devin.
Western. Obviously, we played HCU in Houston Christian University, or formerly Houston Baptist. Did you catch the announcers? Well, you were at the game. The announcers on the game, which one of them was Terry Obie, former coach at Western. Love Coach Obie.
Oh, really? On ESPN Plus?
Yes, he was. He was one of the
Okay,
commentators during the game, and I loved Obi doing it because he called out somebody. He's like, the guys call him Donut, and I'm like, like only Obi would say that on ESPN. But
Oh my gosh, Obi.
so the tops ended up winning 52-22 over HCU. Personally, I was really proud of the offense. I thought they did well. I felt like Helton took his foot off the gas with the offense. That's just my opinion. And then I like part of me was not very pleased with the way the defense played. I feel like we should have locked things down a little better than we did, but you know, I honestly didn't think they should have scored 22 points. But towards the end of the game, we did have more second string in there, and Helton took his foot off the gas, and they even put his nephew, Little Helton, what's his first name?
Turner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turner Helton.
Honestly, the kid was impressive. Honestly,
I mean, I'm
looked like he knew
completely
what he was
fine with
doing.
it. I'm completely fine with it. I'm just hoping his uncle lets him play. Or we have another issue. When Coach Helton eventually leaves, we're going to have Turner Helton here going, I'm coming with you, Unc. And the rest of us are going,
or
no,
he'll
you're
just
not.
go to his dad. His dad's at Georgia Southern. It's kind of funny. He chose his uncle over his dad.
I would have. But anyway, would you play for your dad? Would you play a sport for your dad?
Well, let me tell you this, Devin. Back in 2009, when I was in the middle of being on every team that was 0 and something, we were in church league, and my dad was the coach.
Oh, good Lord!
On the first assembly B team, and we were the B team. It was terrible, man. Clanking stuff off the top of the backboard.
Dude.
Anyway, I guess I played for my dad. It was fine.
Yeah, but that's church league. Like he can't tear into
serious business.
Church league.
Okay, we got into some tiffs.
Okay, I will say I've seen more injuries in church league stuff than I think I did at Western.
Dude, it's
in
brutal,
my extensive career, I played church league softball, and that was rough.
Oh yeah, dude, they don't want to blow the whistle because they want to get home.
Yeah,
and you basically have muggings. People are just getting clobbered, and they're like, "I didn't see any contact. Run the clock." And they just run through the whatever.
The preacher just technically fouled me. He literally he teed me up. That's bull. But
pray to Jesus about it. I don't know. But
speaking of, okay, so I do have one little thing since we're talking church league stuff. HCU,
right,
this is in my stats. HCU had 9 penalties for 92 yards. I just want to say that's not very Christian. I'm just saying.
Oh boy. I thought we were separating ourselves from the religious attacks.
It's a joke. Chill out, people. Jesus. But Matt, what were your thoughts on the game? I know you wrote up the game grades for the Towel Rack. If you want to see the extensive look into Matt's thoughts on each position, check that out at the Towel Rack. But what were your thoughts, kind of just overview of what were you proud of, what were you not proud of?
Okay, well, first of all, I think overall the way I kind of looked at this result was, just check it off the list. Pretty good job, not a disaster, but I think we could have seen more from them.
Yeah.
Whether you look at the final score, we were favored by 42.5. We only won by 30. You give up 22 points, you give up 360 something yards. So that's not very impressive against a team that has never in its history finished 500 in the FCS.
Yeah.
Even with Bailey Zappi. So it's concerning in that way. You have some issues there that are still ongoing. The running game, they were able to run the ball some. It wasn't as bad as South Florida. We gave up 300 and something yards against South Florida, something ridiculous just on the ground. So we did better than we did against South Florida with the run, but also it was a lesser opponent. So I kind of look at it as, yay, we checked that off the list. It didn't look like a disaster, but we definitely have some stuff we've got to fix. And I think when you think about going into this week, it's not going to make any kind of statement to Ohio State or your fans or anything that you're really going to go into Ohio State and give them a game.
Yeah.
So I was, you were talking about the start and everything. It was a nice start, 31-0, I think. But then we did have a lull for about 2 quarters, basically, where Houston Christian was honestly better than us, or better than Western. It was like 22-7, I think, and they actually
Yeah.
cut it to 16. And so what I didn't like was letting them like absolutely back in the game. Like they were within 2 scores at that point. So anything can happen if you allow them to creep back in. What you do like, though, is as soon as that happened, we immediately turned the switch on, slapped them around, and won by 30 and dropped in a couple touchdowns to end the game.
Yeah.
So you like the response. I'd like to see a little more awareness and fire where you just kind of finish it. And that could be, like you said, it could be on coach a little bit. It could be on the players, a little bit of everybody. But you just kind of want to see a little bit more desire to finish it and just slam the coffin, so to speak, like just kind of shut it and move on, and instead of possibly giving them some life. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, but I'd like to see a little bit more from them going forward in those situations.
And kind of like you were saying, it's just the defense for me. Like, I know we've had this paperclip defense forever, but like, I would have liked to have seen more stops than what we had against them. I mean, their defense is not anywhere near, some of the teams La Tech or Liberty or some of these teams that we're going to face in Conference USA. Now, granted, they're probably better than a couple of those teams that we're going to face in Conference USA, but, we should still dominate we should still dominate. And that's I wish we could have. I want the 73-0 game that we had against FIU. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be something that gets you fired up.
Now, we did have an interception and 2 forced fumbles. Sorry, I'm pulling up my notes. But we did have they had 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 1 interception. Sorry, and but they had 368 total yards. Like, that to me is very concerning.
Mm-hmm.
They threw for 200 yards. They had 155 yards rushing. We only had 115 yards rushing.
Yeah, I will say some of our stats were skewed because for the first half, we didn't get the ball much inside our own territory. I mean, we were right at midfield or farther in, or farther, closer to the goal line. So some of that is just some lost yardage there.
Yeah.
And they had longer fields to go and stuff. But still, I mean, I'd like to see, when you're playing FCS, something around 300 or under, or keep them off the scoreboard, or, walk away from that game being impressed with the fact that you kept them down. Instead, it was kind of like, we still have some of the same concerns from last week. And I mean, honestly, the offense hasn't really clicked either.
Yeah.
We are yet to have 500 yards offense in a game, which is concerning given that number one, you played in FCS, and then you played a team that was supposed to be a bad matchup for your passing game, and neither one of them you really put on a clinic. And so it's like, okay, when's the offense going to click into place? And we've had injuries. You've got like 5 receivers injured against Houston Christian, if you include Dalvin Smith, who went down the first drive. So, I mean, obviously you got some issues there. And I believe there are some starters on defense that that are out, or at least rotational players that are kind of injured. And so you've had more injuries than you'd like, but still, I'd like to see, like you said, put on a show and shut them down. You clearly were the better team getting out to 31-0. That was the real kind of picture that it should have been painted on the field. Either score more points and give up 22 points, or have a little bit better defensive effort and blow them out 52-3.
Yeah. I mean, I would have liked to have seen a little more, like you were saying. I'd like to have seen more of a defensive effort there. I think the offense did pretty good. Austin Reed, did good with, like you said, having the receivers down, and also having, excuse me, Corley didn't play. Yeah, I know. I have this problem where I try to say two words at the same time sometimes when I'm just rushing in my head. But Malachi Corley did not play last week, did he?
No, he did not.
And which, by the way, frustrates me. I'm kind of like you in a way. It frustrates me that, coaches will be like, well, I think he'll be okay. He'll be back next week. And then he doesn't play, which is fine. Like, I understand injuries happen. And with the injury that we think could possibly be, like, it's not something that you want to rush either way.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of it, like you said, well, it's not a big deal. We're not really concerned about it. And it's like, but he didn't play.
Right.
I mean,
did he have it was a business decision?
But did he have a birthday to go to or something? Like, you just want to act like it's nothing, and then he doesn't end up playing. So, I mean, but in their defense, HCU was not a make it or break it game. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So
we were well in control the whole time, and it was fine. I will say, speaking on the receivers, one thing that you really, really have to like is, I mean, individually, the revelation of Easton Messer as a legitimate receiver on this roster, but also just the overall depth. You really do have 5 guys that are out that would probably be playing in the place of some of these guys.
Yeah.
Malachi Corley, Matheson, Dalvin Smith, Craig Burt was injured, and there's another one, I think his name's Bunton. They're all injured. And I may be missing one.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it sounds bad, but there's so many injured, it's hard to keep up with everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that we've still got guys producing. You have Easton Messer, who produces 100.
Eat your Messer. Go ahead, sorry.
But he has over 100 yards receiving. Blue Smith, the Ohio State transfer, by the way, is doing a good job. He's the lone probable starter that he would probably start anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you've had some guys step up. Dalvin Smith did step up in the South Florida game when Corley goes down. You've had guys that come straight in. Musa Berry gets an incredible long touchdown in the first week. I mean, you've had guys step in and immediately do something awesome. And you love to see that from your depth, because when these guys come back, then you're going to have 10 or 12 people that you can throw in and out of the lineup, and nobody's going to have to be tired. You're going to know this guy's going to go do something for us because he's already done it. So I love to see that kind of depth.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what we have to do, though. You have to have a next man up mentality, because if you don't, you have a couple injuries, and then you're like, well, we're going to have to start running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You limit half your offense because of injuries, and it's like, well, at least we still have, Messer and some of these other guys to step up and do well. But go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, looking into next week, I mean, you think about how do you beat a Power 5 team? One way is to have some depth at some of your key positions. To have that kind of depth at wide receiver is going to be crucial. To have some depth at running back, you got 4 guys that can come in and actually do something.
They're Power 5, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, Ohio State. They've been around. They were FCS a few years ago.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Sorry.
But they
okay. So first off, before anybody thinks I'm an idiot, I'm completely joking. There was an article that came out through, was it Ohio State's school or something? And it had Western Kentucky,
From Bowling Green,
you know,
Ohio.
from Bowling Green, Ohio. This is just, I'm just messing around. Not a complete idiot. I know they're from there.
Well, I
So
mean, you
when I
are,
so
but
later, yes, yeah,
you
that's
do
true. But
know
when
the difference in this
yes,
case.
yes, but so later when I tell you that they're in the wrong city, or I call them by the wrong name or the wrong mascot, it's intentional. So maybe it was good our guest didn't come on. I mean, Urban Myers probably doesn't want to hear about this anyway. So, and
Yep.
dead silence.
Absolutely, buddy. I've got your back.
All right,
sort of,
Jared, what do you think about
on
that?
that.
So, but
Oh,
anyway,
sorry. Well,
yeah, I
I
mean,
told you, I texted you.
no, they, wi- I, to see the guys step up like they have been, I mean, it's doing a great job. Um, I wish we could contain the quarterback a little bit more because that's going to be an
True.
issue Saturday against Ohio State.
That's true.
You
That's a
know,
good point.
HCU's quarterback did not look great, but neither did South Florida's quarterback. But because we were unable to contain the quarterback whenever he scrambled, we had a lot of opportunities where it could have been a loss of 5, 8, 10 yards, whatever, and they ended up gaining 3 or 4 or 6 or whatever because he scrambled, he got a loose, and our D line or defensive ends weren't able to contain him, so it was just a little frustrating. But
Yeah, that's a valid point. I do. I mean, I haven't watched Ohio State, to be honest, yet this year. Just
I
watched
don't
some
think they
highlights
get
and
on
stuff.
major networks very often.
Yeah, I think they're like on the Ocho or something. They're on like ESPN Plus or whatever.
Yeah. I don't. I
CBS
think they're on
Sports Network.
Stadium. I think they're
Yeah,
on Stadium. Yeah, they got to deal with Stadium now.
I think so. Their conference, God bless their heart. But
I
it
mean,
does bring up a good point, honestly, about the QB being able to contain some threat there. Hopefully, I think it seems like Ohio State's his last name's McCord, Kyle McCord. Um, I believe that he's much less mobile than these two that we have faced. It seems like he's pretty much a statue, but I guess time will
so,
tell.
but that's because he hasn't had to move. They played
True.
Indiana, which, by the way, is probably like a half a step above us as far as talent goes, and then they played Youngstown State, which, as much as I'm joking about Ohio State, Youngstown is not the best, out there. They
Well,
had
and I think
he had
as
258 passing yards against them and 239 against Indiana.
yeah,
So
I will say I think one thing that some of the older Western fans will be thinking, fans that were kind of around in the 2000s or so, will think of Youngstown State and think they're like this great FCS program, but they haven't really done much in the last decade or so. So you might think of Youngstown State as like a pretty elite FCS program, but they've been about 500
which they're
for
basically
years.
like Nebraska.
Right.
That hasn't done anything since the 90s, really.
Yeah. Are they the Huskers?
Yes, the Corn
I think I've heard
Huskers.
of them.
Yeah. It's somewhere out east, somewhere east of here. I don't know. But anyway,
Kentucky.
Youngstown State, the longest throw this guy had against Youngstown was 71 yards. And Indiana
Weak.
had a 49-yard pass against them. Of course, they beat Indiana 23-3 and 35-7 against Youngstown. But
Yeah, I'd
um,
say definitely one thing that stands out if we're getting into the Ohio State preview is Ohio State is their defense is what seems like stands out to me.
yes,
They're averaging giving up 5 a game. So
yeah,
they gave up 3 to Indiana and they gave up 7 to Youngstown. But they just haven't allowed much of anything at all against their two opponents. And so it's kind of like okay, Ohio State's offense seems to struggle a little bit, but can Western do anything offensively against what's probably going to end up being a pretty good defense?
Well, and then of course you were just saying Ohio State's defense hasn't allowed much, whereas Western's defense is like, I have no analogy for the 454 yards allowed, which by the way, like that's like the sluttiest girl at prom. I have no idea. But like they're not stopping anything at 454 yards.
Yeah.
This is very this is very rough as far as I'm concerned. Like this is not going to be pretty. We've allowed
Well,
189 and a half through the air, but we've allowed 264 on the ground.
Well, that's massively ballooned by the USF rushing totals, and it's only 2 games. So, I mean, you're going to have some skewed numbers. But yeah, I agree. I mean, that was a disaster, and the fact that you gave up 150 or whatever against Houston Christian was way more than you probably should have, considering they don't have a really good ground game either.
Yeah.
So it's definitely concerning. I will say, though, I genuinely think there is a chance that Western could certainly be in the game and on some days could possibly pull it out. And the reason is, I think, like when I came into the season, I was anybody that we talked about this with, I was like, I think this is a terrible matchup for Western. I think it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be 56 to 10 kind of thing. And it might end up being that. But Ohio State has not proven to be the team that I thought they were going to be. I thought they were going to be, like they have great receivers. They're going to find a good quarterback. And they're going to have this crazy good offense with a pretty good defense, kind of like Western. And so when you try to look at how could you upset, well, to me, I look at contrasting styles. Well, Ohio State this year is more of a possession type of team. They're not scoring as much. Their defense is elite, but they haven't really produced a ton of offense, and they don't really run the ball that well either. So they haven't really passed well yet. They may not have had to either, but they haven't really shown a great passing game, and they haven't shown a great running game. And so if you think about it, if Western could bust a few drives and be able to score in the 20s or 30s, is Ohio State going to be able to put up 30 or 40 to be able to make this 30, 40, or 50 to make this huge blowout that everybody thinks it'll be? I don't know. But, I mean, Ohio State only scored 35 against Youngstown State. That's concerning if you're Ohio State, in my opinion, because what if WKU does get a few more touchdowns than you think that they'll get? And then you start flirting with, oh my gosh, I don't know if we can keep up with their offense. So I think there could be some scenarios where the game is closer than a lot of people might think. Then again, it could be a complete disaster and we could give up 65. But
Well, okay. So the way the scoring worked for Ohio State Youngstown, Ohio State had 28 points going into halftime, and they scored one more in the third. So, to me, when you're up by 3 touchdowns, he had the second. Coach had second string in there for Ohio State, because he's not going to waste his talent on Youngstown State, who is in the Missouri Valley Football Conference, with such notable teams as North Dakota State, South Dakota State, Southern Illinois, Northern Dakota, South Dakota, Indiana State, Missouri State, Northern Iowa, Western Illinois, and a couple more. But anyway, I think that was a, hey, McCord, you've had a great game. Go ahead and take your stuff off. You can go sit up in the booth. I literally don't think they played that kid anymore. I mean, they may have. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think this was a Youngstown State's like, we're tired of this, we're going to stop them. No. I think Ohio State said, okay, little brother, you go ahead and do what you want to. We're going to get on the bus.
I mean, I understand. I'm not reading that
you're
much
like,
into it.
well, I mean, you're like,
But
well, I'm pretty concerned about that score. No, I'm not. If I was an Ohio State fan, I'm like, yeah, 35-7 is okay.
well,
Because like when you get to a certain level, like for instance, I remember when we played Saban, like he scored like 35 and like you could tell they pulled the first string guys, put the second string in. Western marched down the field and scored. Then he put the first string back in and they scored again, and then he pulled them. And it was like he's trying to be classy and not run the score up on you, whereas like the rest of us would coach college sports like we play NCAA football on our PlayStations, and we would run the score up 100 million to 0 and just be like, meh, nyeh, 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 nyeh.
so
But
basically, we'd be Urban Meyer.
yeah, or Bill Belichick or somebody. But yeah,
Well, you know,
um,
whoever.
yeah. Hey,
Just random example.
if I could find a hoodie like that, yeah, I'd walk around like that all the time. Is
Yeah,
is
I
Bill
mean, listen,
Belichick is Bill Belichick the goth chick before there were goth chicks? I know I'm gonna have so many angry Patriots people. That's okay.
oh my
Um,
gosh. Oh well.
but
They'll
no,
be all right.
but seriously, like if I was a Ohio State fan, I'm not concerned about Youngstown State. Um, and honestly, they don't even know what town we're from, so it makes you wonder how concerned they are about us. But this is the first game this season where there is another factor that we are neither one of us are talking about: crowd size.
True.
They have a capacity of 102,000 people, basically 103,000 people in their stadium. I
Weak.
remember what those stadiums were like. Matt, I'm sure you remember what those stadiums are like.
They
When
were
you get
soft.
to soft, yeah, you couldn't talk to somebody 2 feet away from you because it was so loud. So I mean, first off, Ohio State is probably not a place that has issues getting people to come to games.
That's
I'm just
true.
going to throw that out there. I'm going to say they probably don't have a problem getting people to come to games. So when you have 100,000 people screaming and yelling all at the same time, things get confused. Audibles don't get heard. There's issues. So of course I know coach will probably be practicing with the guys, getting ready for that. But there is no way to prepare for that until you hit it. Until you experience it. I remember my first was Florida down in the swamp. That was the wildest for me.
Yeah. I think
But
the loudest that I was at, in my opinion, was Tennessee. That was the first one for me. Yeah, I thought they
Tennessee was
were.
loud.
Yeah, I mean they were. They were shaking the stadium before the game, and I still think that was the loudest that I was ever in. I mean, we went to LSU and Alabama.
LSU was pretty cool. Alabama was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tennessee is a different sort of beast. For one thing, I don't know if you remember this, Matt, but during practice and stuff, we had like the most annoying thing in the entire world playing Rocky Top on freaking repeat.
Yeah,
And that is
I do
probably
remember.
that's the biggest reason I hate Rocky Top now.
Is because of that practice or those
Yep.
practices?
Those practices. We had it for like a week. And coach, I think it was Elson at the time, he cranked that sucker to 10.
Yeah.
And so like you could hear Rocky Top on the other side of campus, like a mile and a half
It was
away.
clearly effective. 63-0 was.
And that's why I still hate Lane Kiffin, because he's a prick. But anyway. So
Dang chicken-legged bastards.
I know, right? Jackwagon. Anyway.
We had them after that first quarter, nothing with 3 interceptions.
Yeah,
and then we got tired.
We kicked them field goals. We couldn't score. We had to kick in field goals.
But
yeah, they but of course something else. We talked about crowd size, but also it's Ohio. Like there's nothing good in Ohio, so it's going to be completely depressing. And I think what is the stadiums in Cleveland? Dayton,
it's Columbus,
Cincinnati. Oh, Columbus. Sorry, good call.
Yeah, it was Columbus.
Which, by the way, the stadium's called Ohio Stadium. Like, wouldn't you think like Ohio University would have claimed that first? Like Ohio State would be the second school, right? Like Ohio University would be first, and then they would be second. But
I'm
evidently
sure
not.
Ohio University fans listening in are completely with you.
Yes, the Bobcats are like, "Rah!"
And look, I'm impressed you knew the Bobcats, man. That's good stuff, bro. Did you look them up or something? Is that part of your
Yeah,
research today?
that was a YouTube video I just pulled up of a Bobcat call. "Rah!
They have this about the same fight song as Western, by the way.
Rah!" Yep.
But
Which, by the way, a Buckeye is a tree, right? Like, I mean, it's almost as bad as Stanford in the pine trees that they do. But
I
anyway.
believe a Buckeye is a candy.
It's a candy? I thought it was a tree. There's a Buckeye for a tree, too.
Have you ever heard of Buckeyes, like the candy?
Yes, the peanut butter
It's like-
thing, which are delicious.
Yes,
Yes.
they are.
Yes, those are completely delicious. But like,
Unrelated to what we're talking about.
but like, you name your team the Buckeyes is what I'm saying. Like I get Penguins, I get Knights, I mean, Hilltoppers is a whole nother story. But
I mean, isn't Ohio the Buckeye state though?
is it? I have no
I'm
idea.
pretty sure that's why
Yeah,
they did it.
I know nothing about Ohio.
Ohio is called the Buckeye State, so they're the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Well, I mean, they've been a football team since 1922. Well, the stadium's been there since 1922.
Right.
So,
Maybe.
yeah, I'm looking this
Maybe
up on their
they-
wiki now.
Good stuff.
Hey, they were in the Ohio Athletic Conference for several years.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Yeah, fun fact. There you go. Last national title was 2014. Psh, losers.
We got one 2002.
Yep. That's
Tops.
right.
They also had one 2002, but whatever.
They really?
Yeah,
Oh, they did.
They beat Miami in 2002. It's a big upset.
First Ohio State football team of the 1890s. Yep, that's pretty cool. Good for you guys.
Yeah.
Show offs. Anyway. Yeah. But so what are you let me get back on my notes here. As far as Ohio State. Oh, so the big thing that Matt's big complaint is he does not think that Ohio State is going to win by 29.
Yeah.
I think if you're anybody, you take the over. But Matt, you go right ahead.
Okay, so we've been talking about emphasizing sports betting and stuff because it's now legal in Kentucky. It'll be legal online in a couple weeks.
In person, because my overzealous butt went on and downloaded FanDuel for the show, and I even put money on the stinking thing, and then I tried to put a bet down, and it wouldn't work. Because I was like, well, shoot, yeah, I'm going to take the over on Western. And then I was like, why is it not letting me do this? Yeah, so I texted you about that. But anyway, I'm not allowed to talk about. I'm not allowed to talk about betting. So Matt's all Matt.
Oh my gosh! You can talk all you want, Devin. I don't care. Just don't completely piss on it when we start talking about it. I think gambling's stupid and the lottery sucks. Blah 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 blah. What does that do with anything? Anyway, all right. So the line against Western started at 26, meaning that they think Vegas thinks whatever that WKU will lose by 26 points. Well, that is ballooned now to at the time that we're recording, it's about 29 points. So obviously, money is coming in on Ohio State to cover that spread, and it continues to increase that number. And so, at 29 points, that means that Ohio State is going to have to score more than that. If you put down $10, they're going to have to score more than that for you to lose your bet if you say that Western will cover the spread. And so I just think, 29 points is a whole lot in any game for whatever the opponent is, whatever. A lot of things can happen for a team not to win by 29 points. You kind of, like in betting, especially sports betting, you have certain like thresholds that it's kind of a good idea to bet if it gets over a certain threshold. But when you cross over to another possession, so it goes from 4 to 5 possessions at 27 to 29 points. basically it means that it's even more difficult for Ohio State to cover at 29 versus 27 or 26.
Well,
And so, go ahead, man.
go ahead. Nope. You good? You good? Keep
Nope,
going.
okay. So anyway, here's my thing. Number one, we know that WKU's offense is decent. It's very unlikely that they're going to get completely shut out. It could happen, but most likely you're going to have them score something. They're probably going to score 10 or 14 points or something at least, in my
But not the
opinion.
defense.
But Devin, listen. All right, they they face some teams that also don't have very good defenses, and they only were able to muster 35 at the most, and that was against a team that is definitely inferior to WKU. So, in my opinion, it's difficult to see where, let's say that Western scores 10 points. That means Ohio State has to score 40 in order to overcome that 29-point spread and for you to lose that bet if you put it on WKU.
So
That's hard for me to see when they haven't really come close to that kind of performance yet. They're going to have to be great all of a sudden on offense in order to get to that number. And one final thought, and then I'll let you I will let you speak in a minute, Devin.
fine. You know what?
But just a final thought on that. If WKU scores more than that, that means that Ohio State's going to have to way overcome their tendency to score maybe in the 30s or so. They're going to have to score in the 40s or 50s in order to overcome that spread. I think that WKU will cover the spread at least.
Well, the opinion of the person that's not on crack would think that my issue is with the whole situation with the defense and all that. I think your Youngstown State number is skewed because I'm dead serious when I said this earlier that Ohio State probably pulled their starters. They probably put in second string. And they just took their foot off the gas. Why do you have to hit the gas? You do not have to outscore somebody in the second game of the season, bajillion to nothing. Points aren't going to matter that much until the end of the season. When you are vying for that, third, fourth, whatever play, spot to get into the college playoff. But I just think I think it's a little overkill or at least, to score that much. So if I'm putting myself in the shoes of the Ohio State coach, you're not scoring that much. There's no reason to outscore them by that much. And I think that number is skewed. So I think you got to throw it out. So,
I mean, look, I'm not saying that was the true score of that game. Obviously, Ohio State was much better than that, and 28-7 in the first half is more indicative. But play that out over two halves. Let's say they really went for it and they won 56-14. That's still only winning by 42. Who's
but
to
that's
say
still
that?
over 29.
I understand that, but that's Youngstown State versus WKU. If they played them straight up, I mean, I think it would be difficult to say definitely that Ohio State would beat WKU by 29 points if they won by 42 against Youngstown State. If that was the true score or whatever, however you want to look at it. I mean, there's some margin there to say, okay, if you're struggling to really blow out an FCS program, like all it would have taken for Youngstown State to make that a decent game was to get a couple late touchdowns, and they would have, Ohio State would have looked very pedestrian. But I mean, there's indications there that I think Ohio State is going to struggle to get to 40. Even if WKU's defense is as bad as it has been, I still think they're going to struggle to get to 40 points because they don't have much of a running game and they don't have much of a passing game either. They might come up with one of those, but they're not like the Tua Tagovailoa type of offense or Tennessee or even the old Ohio State from last year that was flirting with leading the nation in passing. We did, by the way. But I think that that's my logic on this. I mean, I think it's just hard to see them cover such a huge number when they can't score.
Okay, so I will make a bet with you. Okay, this is a gentleman's bet. This is not money related.
Okay. I
And the
mean, it's
next
legal. We can do it
episode,
now. I mean, if you want to just
well,
make it
this is
real,
just a gentleman's bet. This is just for the show.
no balls.
At the start of the next episode, when we introduce ourselves, you will have to say, or the person who loses will have to say, "Hello, I'm a dumbass. I said that blah 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 blah." Okay, so you want to say that Western will get the under 29, right?
Yeah.
You want to stick with that, okay? I'm going to say that we're going to get the over. So next week, I've got a note. I will not throw it away. Whatever happens, one of us will be a dumbass, and we'll say it on the air that we are a dumbass and we said this. So there we go.
All right, deal. I'm
Yep,
not going to have to say it.
Virtual shake on it. Okay, that's fine. I have no faith in our defense to do
Look,
anything.
man, it's not crazy to say we'll cover the spread. Like, I don't think that's insane. What I think it's insane for you to say we're definitely not. I mean, come on, dude. But I'm not saying we're going to outright win. I don't think we will. I mean, honestly, I think we could in some universe, but yeah.
I'm not saying that I think we'll win. I mean, there would have to be a horrible thing happen for us to, in order to do some of the things we'd have to win. But, voodoo priests are involved. But anyway, seriously, I have no confidence in the defense right now. After 2 games, South Florida, granted, South Florida is a better team. But after 2 games and South Florida and HCU, I have no confidence. Like last week, I feel like the defense should have had a stronger performance than they did against HCU, and they did not. And it frustrates me, for one thing, because you see, the potential there, and we just can't stop things. Whereas we should be stopping them in key moments so that we can, for instance, give, if we could stop them here on their 40-yard line, we give the ball back to offense, we can get off the field, and then we convert. That's not a specific situation. It's just a hypothetical. But
yeah,
it was just really frustrating to see these moments where it's like, okay, we can dominate this series on defense. We can get the ball back. Granted, we did have an interception ran back, which, by the way, when he cut across the field, I was like, oh, he's gone. But when that was a great play, and don't get me wrong, I was completely tickled with it. But I've got to see a little bit more before we get to the point where it's like, okay, they're not going to score more than 29 against us. So
yeah, that's
just my opinion. I may be a dumbass. I'm completely fine with that.
I think you will prove to be. Come.
Well, you've been talking to my wife, evidently, so it's fine.
Yeah, we have been communicating.
Sure.
I've got the intel on why exactly.
Yeah.
No, man, but you make a great point about just kind of being frustrated with the defense. That's a good way to put it. Just in terms of like, dadgummit, if we could just stop the ball a little bit from somebody just shoving it down our throats and stopping the quarterback from running for 30 yards down the field, we'd be in pretty good shape overall with the rest of the team. And so it is frustrating because we had and have pieces on defense and offense for us to look at and be like, you know what, we're going to be pretty good this year, but it hasn't come together yet. Yeah. And even with Donut, who has sealed a game on his own already, we still have not looked like an elite defense. I will say, though, I mean, we have been forcing turnovers. We've forced 3 per game, and a lot of them are coming from the DBs. Almost all of them, except the 2 by Donut, I guess, because he's got 2 fumble recoveries, 1 for a touchdown. But it is frustrating. That's a great way to put it. I think
I'm glad you like that.
Yeah, that's good. If we can, bless your, good job, buddy. But if we could force a few turnovers, obviously that would be a huge assistance in this game. I think that's got to be one of your biggest keys to victory, if you will, is controlling the ball, controlling the clock, not doing things to screw yourself. Um, and it would give you a chance if you had an Upton Stout pick six, or if you, forced a fumble or something like that. If they would make a mistake, and hopefully we'll see that.
Let me ask you something, just hypothetical here.
Sure.
How many, without looking at your notes or anything, how many touchdowns we score in the first half?
4.
5.
Oh,
It was
38?
31. Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. It
We
was,
scored
yes.
5 times, but it was
Well,
4 touchdowns.
yes, we had one of those was a field goal, my mistake. And so then we only scored 3 in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
We had 3 touchdowns in the second half. So, like, to me, that is that's one of those things that even though we were winning by that much, like, we still scored only, less than half of our touchdowns in the second half, which kind of makes it feel like Ohio State, took their foot off the gas too. So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I'm still on this point. So,
yeah, I mean, without those 2, what is scary is without those 2 touchdowns late, you definitely look at that game a little different. I mean,
yes,
we allowed that game to be within 2 possessions. I assume people realize that. I mean, it was 16 points. That's
yeah,
2 touchdowns and 2-point conversions, and they could have tied the game. Lesser things have happened, and so it's kind of a scary moment for me. But yeah, you kind of look at it and say, okay, we won by 30, it's okay. But man, we almost let them really get back into the game and have a
yeah,
real chance of winning, and it
yes,
didn't end up mattering. But that is kind of like, you wonder, what if a couple more things had gone wrong? What if we hadn't had 3 turnovers? What if
I mean,
we
I
had
mean,
turned
like,
the ball over at all?
well, I mean, even like you're saying, like, what if we threw an interception on one of those touchdowns, or what if
Mm-hmm.
there was a fumble that was run back? Well, that game could have, yeah, it was 16 points at the end of there, but like there were times when HCU, if the ball had bounced another way, they could have had a different. It could easily have had a different outcome.
Absolutely.
And which is, by the way, the worst part and the worst thing to do in front of 20,712 people. So, I mean, that's the largest crowd Western's had this year for football. Which, by the way, congrats to all the people who tried to make that happen.
Yeah,
They
absolutely. That was cool. It was
worked
nice to see a nice crowd for sure.
they worked really hard. Trying to get the stadium filled, and so good job, guys. We appreciate you, and helping out the football team like that. It makes it a lot more fun. It's a better environment, and it makes recruiting easier. It makes a lot of things easier for the football program and for Western
And
in
other
general.
programs, yeah. I was going to say there were some big recruits in town for basketball. There was other stuff going on besides just the football game, and so to have those guys in and have basically 21,000 people have a near capacity crowd that you
Yeah,
want to see. So
yeah.
good on everybody for making a turnaround from that terrible crowd against USF.
Well,
So,
and I will say, I mean, we're right here at the end of the podcast, so we can talk about this for a couple seconds here. I did hear a couple complaints with a few things. The band was one of them. It's a little awkward complaint. Was that the band and that the people over the music should coordinate, which I can understand that. Maybe they should coordinate with the band so that they weren't playing over each other or trying to compete with each other. And then another issue is the grassy knoll. No, there was not a shooter, but the issue comes in with the grassy knoll because when you have a stadium or a capacity of 20,000 people, and you have gaps in the seating in the stadium because people have gone down to the grassy knoll down there, like it kind of makes it seem like there's not a lot of people there. I mean, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're definitely. It didn't seem like there were really 21,000 people in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go to the berm, but
You call it the berm?
Yeah, that's what it's called, Devin. It's the berm. It's not the grassy knoll.
Okay, I'm a JFK conspiracy theorist person. I like the grassy.
That's fine, but we don't have to bring it into WKU football talks. Just slipping that in there. Anyway, yeah, no, I mean the corners were less full, but I mean there were a lot of people up in the upper deck. There were a lot of people in the lower deck, and the new side was pretty full and everything. So it was a nice crowd, and it was. I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see people showing up and supporting the Tops.
Every game.
Right.
Completely agree. I was just checking something real quick. Okay. So at the South Florida game, we had 15,438. That's 12% less than we had last game. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's great. I'd love to see it. Honestly, I think Western should sell or give away, about 5,000 or 6,000 tickets a game. I don't even care. Because you're going to be paying for it. They're going to, people are going to buy food. You can't get kids not to want to buy food at a football game. I'm just saying. Or a big red plush or some T-shirt or something. You can't keep them from buying crap.
Oh yeah.
But
I mean, I got little kids. We're definitely buying waters and ice
everything,
cream, if nothing else.
Dad, I want this. No,
I'm hungry.
We just fine.
I told you we weren't eating. 5 seconds later.
Or you could be like my mother, who would like sneak stuff into the games. Yeah, I got hot dogs. I brought a 2-liter too. Here you go.
Here's some of my flask. Get you swigger, Devo.
Now see, my mother is a good Christian Baptist lady who would not do that. So anyway,
outside of her garage,
or she wouldn't tell anybody because she's Baptist. But anyway, the game this Saturday is 4:00 on Fox. Sorry, I was about to say ESPN. It is going to be on. It's going to be on Fox this week. The game is at Ohio Stadium in Columbus, Ohio. That's serious this time. It's in Columbus. The weather's going to be 77 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be a great weather for a football game. If you're in the area and you can get tickets, go for it. So, support the Tops. They'll appreciate it. I'm expecting a couple thousand people to be there at the game, but you never know. There may be a few more. Anyway, support the Tops, definitely. And then we'll be back here next week to talk some more Hilltopper football. But
hey, Devin, real quick. Yes. I know, man. I know you're about to shut. I do this every week. What would you be your actual prediction, since you think we're going to lose by 400,000?
I will say. I'll say. Let's see. It's got to be more than 29.
So you're going to pick something that doesn't even cover the spread.
I'll say 42-7.
42-7. Okay.
And that'll be Ohio State. As bad as I hate to say it.
Yeah. I got 37-17 Ohio State. So
you say 37-17?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I've got them written down. Next week, someone will be a dumbass. We both are already, but we will be. We're going to just go ahead and say it, and I'll make sure to put it in the show notes too. So, but as always, guys, we appreciate you listening thus far. Like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate it. It helps us out. It helps you out. Somehow, I don't know. Maybe it's a good Christian love. Anyway, but as always, guys, go Tops.
Go Tops. Beat OSU.
Yeah. Funky sound of music.
Did you say something about the sound of music?
I said the sound is funky there for a second. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks. Yeah.